Hello everyone, it's Wednesday and you're watching Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. South Korea and Canada are celebrating the 60th anniversary of establishing diplomatic ties. Last year, the two countries agreed to elevate their relations to comprehensive strategic partnership at a summit between President Yoon Suk-yeol and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So in what direction could ties be expanded and strengthened in order to ensure for 60 years of further diplomatic ties? For this, we have invited very special guest, South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin and his Canadian counterpart, 멜라니졸리. Ministers, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure as well. Now, this year marks the 60th anniversary of establishing diplomatic ties between South Korea and Canada. How have the decades of friendship developed up until now? And what significance does this Diamond Jubilee have? Minister Park, could you kick us off?
Well, I think we are natural friends and partners. This year, as you said, commemorates 60th anniversary of our diplomatic relationship. But our friendship goes much longer than that. During the Korean War, Canada sent young soldiers, 26,000, to Korea to defend our freedom and democracy. And our friendship was forged in battle. And after the war, we have established diplomatic relationship, and our partnership has grown stronger year after year. In 2015, we signed the free trade agreement between Korea and Canada. Korea is the first Asian country to sign this free trade with Canada, and still Korea is the only Asian country that has free trade with Canada. So we are in a very special partnership. So based on this special relationship, we will move forward to prepare for another 60 years of common prosperity.
Right, we will move forward together. Now, Minister Jolie, is there any of your idea?
Well, I think my dear friend, Minister Park Jin, which I call PJ.
So initial.
PJ said it all. Of course, as mentioned, during the Korean War, there were 26,000 Canadians that served at the time. There was more than 500 that made the ultimate sacrifice here on this beautiful land. And so since then, we've been completely committed to a democratic Korea. And we've invested over the years, and we also have a very important Korean community back in Canada. We have strong people-to-people ties. Now, I really think that we're at a turning point. President Yoon's first bilateral visit abroad was in Canada. And since then, we've recognized how much Korea is a very important player on the world stage, and we welcome also the vision for a global pivotal state. So there's been a lot of work between Korea and Canada, particularly, I must say, in the past year, and looking forward for the next 60 years, like PJ just said.
Right, me too. Now, as our Minister Jolie pointed out, last year there was the very first summit between President Yoon Suk-yeol and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And Seoul and Ottawa upgraded their relationship to the comprehensive strategic partnership at a summit. And the presidential office at that time called this a milestone for future bilateral relations. Now, what significance does this elevated ties have, Minister Jolie?
Well, it happened at a time where at the same time, Canada was looking even more towards the Pacific region. For a long time, Canada looked towards our east, which is Europe, and our south, which is the US, and the north, which is the Arctic. But it was important for us also to look more to the west and get involved into the Pacific region. So it's as if things happen at the right moment, because within the first year of their mandate, Minister Park Jin and his office and the president announced the Indo-Pacific strategy, and we also announced our Indo-Pacific strategy, which share a lot of initiatives and commonalities. And in that sense, we both recognize that within the Indo-Pacific, which is important to be free, prosperous, and peaceful, there is this specific region, which is the North Pacific, which is our neighborhood. And that's where Korea and Canada becomes extremely important. That's why we need to make sure that we work even more together. And as I said to PJ many times, Canada and Korea have always been good friends, but now we're best of friends.
Right, I see. Minister Park, could you add more?
Yes, you mentioned comprehensive strategic partnership. Korea has this comprehensive strategic partnership, which we call a CSP, with only 4 countries, including Canada. Canada is our partner, our friends, and our neighbor, as Melanie said, in the North Pacific region. Comprehensive means that our scope of partnership covers economic, military, diplomatic, and technological cooperation. Strategic means that we have shared strategic interests in common values such as freedom, democracy, rule of law, human rights, rather than just immediate national interests. So based on this comprehensive strategic partnership, we will deal with common challenges and advance our shared interests. Canada is our optimum partner in doing so.
Optimum partner. Right. I'd like to also tap on this year's summit. Now, today's summit was the first since their meeting last September in Ottawa. What significance does this year's summit have, and what key items were on the agenda?
Well, this summit is following, of course, what you mentioned, President Yoon's visit to Ottawa. Since then, for myself, I've been here 3 times, one in November, one in April, and now. And we've been able, and we've seen each other, I think, 6 times throughout the year.
Including
lot.
today's interview.
Yes, that's so we are working on many issues. We've launched the negotiations of an information sharing agreement. In our Indo-Pacific strategy also, we committed a 3rd frigate to the region here to reinforce the UN sanctions against North Korea. So we're investing much more in military cooperation to that regard. When you look at it, after the US and France, Canada is the country that has the most frigates to ensure peace and stability here in the region. And also, we have signed MOUs on critical minerals, on the question also of youth mobility, and on energy. So you can see how much we're aligned, and this is just our way to make sure that we become even more aligned in the years to come.
Right. Minister Park?
Well, I think in this summit, we created a great synergy between Korea and Canada. We have to deal with the common challenges of climate change, and also we have to respond to the stabilization of global supply chains, and make sure that the region can maintain peace and stability during peacetime. Canada's contribution to the peace and stability through the maritime exercise, especially the Operation Neon, the Canada's contribution, we appreciate greatly. Therefore, I think we have made a very successful expansion of Korea-Canada partnership for the sake of peace, freedom, and prosperity in the region. And as Melanie mentioned, our Indo-Pacific strategy, which we announced last year, 1 month after Canada announced, I think we have lots of in common between the 2 countries in terms of our conceptualization, what kind of region we are going to create. So we will work very closely for introducing this more stable and more free and more prosperous region in the future.
Right. I cannot notice that the importance of Indo-Pacific region is keep coming up during our interview right now. So I'd like to ask you guys, both countries are, like we said before, pushing to deliver their own Indo-Pacific strategies right now. And in what ways could these 2 key countries of the region cooperate with each other for, like our Minister Park said, free, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific?
Well, on our side, for us, it's a generational shift. I mentioned a bit earlier in the interview that we're looking a lot to Europe and the US, and now we're looking much more to the Pacific region because we have a huge Pacific coast. We've invested $2.3 billion in this strategy. It's the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall that Canada invests so much in a region in the world. 17 departments are involved, 43 initiatives are at stake. So it means it's about security, it's about trade, it's about also reinforcing people-to-people ties, everything linked to immigration. It's about climate change and infrastructure, and finally it's about increasing our diplomatic presence in the region. And at the core of that is, like I mentioned, the North Pacific, which is for us important because it's our neighborhood, but also it's the gateway to the Arctic. And at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure, like Korea, that we reinforce the international rules-based order, the norms that have kept us safe for the past 75 years, and for Korea, the past 60 years. And so it is important for us to make sure that these norms be the same, whether the country is small or big. And so in that sense, that's why we're seeing eye to eye with Korea, because we have the same vision, the same will, the same values, and we're putting money where our mouth is.
Right. Mr. Park, what's your
Well,
point
this
of view?
region is vital for Korea and perhaps for Canada, because our exports, the 80% of our exports and 70% of our import come from this area. And also this region has two-thirds of global GDPs and global population. So this is very important area, and we need to make sure that this region is maintained with the rules-based international order in order to maintain peace and stability. So in that sense, Korea and Canada can work closely together to contribute to peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific. We have lots of agenda to cooperate, including climate change and supply chain stability, and also food and energy security, and the maritime peace building. So I think we have a very excellent partnership to maintain peace and stability in this region.
Right, I see. Now, cooperation in the economic security sector is also very much important. And as we all know, South Korea is a key producer of chips and batteries, while Canada is top producer of minerals. In what ways have the two countries strengthened their economic security ties, and what significance does it have in terms of the global challenges that we are facing right now? Mr. Park?
Korea and Canada have leading edge technology, and we are key players in the region. And most importantly, the economic security is a core element of our national interest, which requires a close cooperation between Korea and Canada. Canada has abundant natural resources and cutting edge technology. Korea has industrial know-how, and also we are the leading player in semiconductor manufacturing. So there are lots of room for Korea-Canada partnership, and I think that through our close coordination and cooperation, we can make a better future for the region.
And also, you must talk about this, PJ, because it was your idea and the president's idea to do a 2+2 dialogue. So 2+2 dialogue between foreign affairs, which is us, and also with the economic and trade ministers. So usually it's a bit different. Usually it's much more foreign affairs and defense, but for us it was foreign affairs and economy. Why? Because this is about what we want in the region for the North Pacific. We want to have economic security, a green trade corridor where ultimately we can supply what our people, so Koreans, Canadians want, need, are asking for, and that we can be at the cutting edge of what's the best in the world. So yes, semiconductors, but the best ones. Yes, electric vehicles, but the most interesting ones. And so we have a lot of critical minerals, like it was mentioned. We are also top in AI. So we have some of the best scientists in the world. I know President Yoon was very interested about what was happening in Toronto and our entire ecosystem in AI. So our goal is to reinforce each other, because at the end of the day, as PJ was mentioning, there are a lot of disruptions in supply chains across the world.
Right.
But more we're able to work together, more we're able to reinforce together, better it will be for Koreans and Canadians. And that's why I'm here, and that's why we're working together.
Right, I can see how our bilateral ties are strengthening in every sector right now. Now, later this week, Mr. Jolie, I'd like to ask you, South Korea has been invited to be part of the G7 summit in Hiroshima, Japan, right? How do you believe the relationship between G7 nations and South Korea will develop?
Well, I think it's good news. Of course, being best friends with Korea, we like to have our best friends at the table. But that being said, I think it is not only because Korea has been invited by the G7 and by Japan, who's hosting. It's also about the fact that President Yoon and his team has decided to play a role in the world that is really important. By positioning Korea as a global pivotal state, this ambitious vision has now percolated and influenced many other players. And it's a recognition of the past year, that what Korea has done in the past year on the foreign policy side is really important because we know that there is a security crisis that has happened with Russia's war against Ukraine. Tensions are heightened also in the Indo-Pacific. And so more we're able to work together, better it is. And in that sense, it is, yes, Korea being at the table, but fundamentally it's its contribution to how it sees the world, how it's investing in the world, and how it is reading what is happening, particularly in this region of the world.
Right. Minister Park, would
Yeah.
you like to add this?
The Melanie mentioned the 2+2 economic security dialogue, which we have launched for the first time through the visit by Prime Minister Trudeau and Foreign Minister Melanie. I think this is wonderful because we can sit down and talk about foreign affairs and industrial strategy of both countries together, which is great. And also, this is the first of its kind for Korea and Canada with other nations as well. So this is a very historic development of our partnership. With regard to G7, now Korea, because of its heightened status and national strengths and shared value, we stand shoulder to shoulder with G7 countries. So we would like to contribute to the mission that the G7 has in terms of reaching out to global south, developing countries, and also to find the best solution to the common problems that we have. Climate change and also global supply chain disruptions, food and energy crisis, and so on. So Korea will play greater roles and responsibilities in achieving the common goal, which is pursued by G7.
Right, I hope to see that too. Now, tapping on to individual ties here, Foreign Minister Park, we have seen you playing the harmonica this April at the dinner table when the temple food was served.
Yes.
And I also saw Minister Jolie, you wearing the lovely scarf with the Hangul on, right? The Korean alphabet. You both look very much at ease in the photograph, and it seems as though you get on well with each other. Is that fair enough to say that?
Yes, of course it is. Well, we've seen each other a lot, but I must say I'm a big fan of PJ because he's very charismatic, he has a good heart, he's well-intentioned, and he puts a lot of efforts into these little things that make people smile and make people very special. So what he knew I like scarves, so I got a beautiful Korean scarf. But I went and looked into and found a couple of secrets about him. And PJ loves music, and he really wanted an harmonica. So I surprised him by offering him an harmonica last time I was here a month ago. And to my own surprise, he started playing the Canadian national anthem.
Wow!
So it's good friends now, it's best of friends.
Oh, it's really good to hear that.
It was a great, very nice, handy harmonica. I like music myself, but I didn't imagine that Melanie would give me a present, the musical instrument. So I tried some part of the Canadian national anthem, which I remember. I think we have a great chemistry.
Yeah, we
we've been meeting 5 times so far, 6 including this interview. which means that in less than a year, we are meeting in every 2 months.
Yeah.
Last time we went to Chingwan Temple in Seoul, and I was very impressed by Melanie's appreciation of cultural heritage of Korea. We had a great vegetarian temple meal.
One of the best I've had in my lifetime,
Yes,
actually.
really? You like it a lot. And then we experienced a meditation session together. I think as foreign minister, she goes out of her way to appreciate the culture of our country. And I think this is a very great friendship. And based on the close friendship, we will work very closely together to develop our wonderful partnership for the future.
I can really feel the chemistry coming out from both of you. It's really nice to see.
It's a pleasure.
Now, I'd like to ask many more questions to our ministers. I truly want to do that, but since we are running out of time, I believe this will be our last question. Minister Park, you first. What stepping stones are being laid down for another 60 years of bilateral relationship and friendship between two countries, and what should be done more?
Well, I think that we should invest for the future of our younger generations. This time, Korea and Canada have agreed to increase the people-to-people exchange from 4,000 people per year to 3 times more, to 12,000.
Yes, exactly.
12,000.
Which will provide an ample opportunities for young people on both sides to visit each other, learn from different culture, and to understand the people on the other side, which would make a great foundation for a stronger partnership for the future. I think it's a very worthwhile investment that we can make, and of course, future would be run by young people.
Right.
So I think we have to invest a lot for the younger generation and for the innovation and also great partnership.
I think there's 2 aspects I would add to that, and obviously I'm very supportive of the Youth Mobility Agreement we just signed. Last time I was here, I met also with women that had fled in North Korea, and highlighting the important work that Korea is doing to shed a light on human rights violation in North Korea is really important. So that's why we welcome the work that was done here in Korea to show the world what was happening in North Korea. And we'll continue to do that. Canada has always been a strong advocate for human rights, and we need to make sure that we bring other countries to the table to address this issue. First thing. Second thing also is we believe in the security of the Northern Pacific. We want to increase our relationship within the North Pacific. So this is certainly something that I think that in the next 60 years we will see evolving, because more than ever this region needs to be stable and peaceful, and it's up to us to work together to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah. We have many multilateral fora where we can work together, including G20, NATO, United Nations, and G7. So Korea and Canada would work very closely together to achieve our common goals of contributing to freedom, peace, and stability of the region and beyond.
Right, and beyond. I hope to see enhanced bilateral ties that will be forged by our 2 best friends, Minister Jolie and Minister Park. All right.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's edition, but thank you, Minister Jolie and Minister Park, for your insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you, Melanie.
All right, that's all for Within the Frame tonight. We will be back tomorrow with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.